Welcome, Doctor, to episode 475 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 7th of February, 2023, and featuring Big Finish, The Sirens of Time, written by Nicholas Briggs and starring Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and with me are color commentator Alex Fireheart.
Hello.
And technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm out of soda, I'm out of tea.
Ransan will not be with us today, which I think is unfortunate because I think he would have some very specific opinions about the writing style of this episode. But we will make do without him.
For now, yep.
How's everybody's week going?
I had family shenanigans.
Yeah.
So yeah, birthday stuff happened this week. I had a keyboard and mouse that I ordered from Corsair over Amazon that showed up like 2 weeks early. And yeah, I spent all my birthday money for my father on DVDs right away, and my sister picked out like 3 shirts for me. So that was basically my birthday so far. There's still some things I'm assuming I'm waiting for more to come yet, but we'll see. That was about it. Otherwise, yeah, I'm back on another run of 5 days in a row. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow are not closing shifts, but the next 2 after that are. And then what is it? Like every other day I'm working? Yep. So that's going to be a thing for a week.
For my week, I woke up the morning after our last podcast with a sore throat and no voice. Taught that day with no voice. Managed to just be getting my voice back and have it mostly be a cough the following day. And then Friday through Sunday was the phase where I could barely breathe unless I was blowing my nose every 5 minutes. So I pretty much spent the weekend alternating between wake up, eat a meal, grab a NyQuil, sleep for 6 hours, wake up, eat a meal, pop a NyQuil, sleep for 6 hours. Yesterday I stayed home from didn't go to class. I canceled teaching on Friday. Today I did go back to campus and it was all right other than, little minor shit. So I think I'm pretty much over it.
Sounds like
and it was not COVID. I did get 2 negative COVID tests. So.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound like COVID. It sounds like you got a sinus cold of some kind.
It was no fever. It was no fever or anything. So just a bad cold. But as you can guess, that was pretty much wrapped up my entire week.
Right.
Anything on your end, Alex?
Not much. I pretty much just I don't even remember what day it happened, but randomly just something made I don't even know what I was fixating on before that, but suddenly I got back into a trains kick and downloaded one of these train simulator thingies, and I've just been mainly just messing around with that all week. And then it got to yesterday, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't listened to the audio yet. I should probably do that. It's been like taking most of my attention.
That's kind of me and Rust all of a sudden, because I've been watching this Rust YouTuber now for like the last year or two periodically, And it's been like, yeah, that's kind of interesting how the game has widely changed since the last time I played, because I played back in like the early beta, late alpha.
Mm.
I played back when the game had zombies in it. There's not even zombies in the game anymore. They completely eliminated that plan. They kept the radiation zones, though. That's like one of the few things they kept outside the wild animals. But yeah, for some odd reason, I just finally decided, like, over New Year's to just go, you know what? F it, let's give it a try. I got really attached to a PvE server and went down at one point for about 2-3 days, but I came back. And now, after the latest wipe, because usually these servers wipe either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, the monthly wipe happened, and that server hasn't been back since. I don't know why. It's just no longer on my history list or anything. I'm like, the hell? But I tried another one when the last one went down last time, and since it hasn't been up literally an entire week now at this point, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm on this other PvE server instead. I got to the point where I'm about to make my first wind turbine so I can have just wind power. And that thing works like a son of a gun. On my previous server, I hooked that thing up to almost all my power and had no problem producing enough to keep batteries charged fully 24/7.
Mm.
So, we'll see how that works.
All right. So tonight's show, of course, we're starting an hour late, which is my fault because instead of listening to the audio over the weekend when I had time, I tried to listen to it today on my busy day and ended up being ready 45 minutes or 50 minutes late. But today we have a short bit of birthdays. We've got some news. And then we have our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings. And since we're so late, I'm going to try to get through the news quickly. Starting off with birthdays, we have Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith for many years. Would have been 77, but died in 2011 at the age of 65. We have one of our honorary birthdays of Warwick Davis, whose only Doctor Who appearance was Porridge in Nightmare in Silver, but is better known as Wicket the Ewok, Willow from Willow, Leprechaun, and I'm pretty sure at least one other well-known role that's slipping my mind. Turned 53. And Peter Butterworth, who played the monk in seasons 3 and 4, would have been 104, but died in 1979 at the age of 59. Were you about to say something, Matt?
Warwick Davis also played Marvin, the robot from the Hitchhiker's Guide movie.
Ah,
the physical representation.
Just the actor, or the suit actor.
Yep.
Okay, that I never knew. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So happy birthday, Elizabeth, Warwick, and Peter. That's all of our birthdays for this week. Moving on to 60th anniversary special news. Russell T Davies revealed a little bit about the most recent trailer. Mentions that the trailer had 0 footage from Special 2. So his goal is that we will have seen nothing about Season 2 by the time it airs. It'll be a complete secret.
Is he actually going to keep secrets?
He said he had an opening scene shot in the wide open air, which no fan or passerby saw, so it's still a lovely secret. So, I mean, I'm sure he pays attention to the Twitter and he knows we've seen the unit bases and such. So I'm guessing he means it when he says that there's been no leaks.
No one saw it.
Which basically means that most of what we've seen is all from the first special. And then, of course, there's the scene of Shudigatwa, which is probably from the third one. He says those 60 seconds were originally designed as a much larger trailer, 90 seconds long, to go out after the Power of the Doctor. But it was a trailer for, he says, things that are still secret. Announcements of our bigger plans. But then he decided it was too soon. and that he wanted, that it was Jodie's night, so he didn't want to reveal too much just yet. So there are reveals that he has not made yet that he almost made back when The Power of the Doctor came out.
Okay.
But then he delayed this whole trailer and then also delayed some of that. So it's good. Sounds like there's some secrets to come on top of what we know of, which seems like a positive to me. If they keep the content coming.
I mean, I
moving
guess
on. Sorry.
he's
Go
also
ahead.
probably got a better leverage this time around to be like, don't you fucking ruin this for me.
True.
The marketing rather than first time round where
It
they were
took a long
probably
while
just
for even
like,
his predecessors to finally put their foot down on leaks, and even then it wasn't 100% perfect. But yeah, in this case, he actually has an entire studio and then some to help him backing him on trying to keep everything as secret as possible when he wants it to be.
I mean, every week there's dozens of photos of the on location filming.
Yeah,
So
but
there's
they're
definitely
not
lots of
exactly
stuff
hiding;
coming
they're
from
just
that.
barring
But,
people from getting close.
right. But it sounds like this special 2, they managed to have not even that come out with, not even, no witnesses that weren't part of the cast, or part of the crew. So, all right. Moving on to Series 14 news. We have a new cast member who's been announced at Jack Forsyth Noble as a character named Will. I can't help but find it interesting coincidence that his name is Noble, given the characters appearing in the 60th specials. This article doesn't say anything about him. Has anybody heard of Jack Forsyth Noble before?
I can't say I have.
Let's see.
Copy.
Bilingual and he's British Australian, but he was raised in Spain and trained in London.
Huh. Jack Forsyth Noble, IMDb. Best known for Cast and Kill, Upon the Edge, Life After Life, Monster Beneath Us.
Yeah, I don't recognize any of these names.
Nope.
He did play a recurring character in the TV series Life After Life.
Apparently
I don't know any of these
he was...
shorts or possibly movies.
He was the voice of Lucas in the Doctor Who previously already.
What is the Ultimate Evil?
Ultimate Evil.
Seemingly a Colin Baker audio.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Big Finish.
Big Finish. He's been in Big Finish before.
So he's part of the Big Finish to BBC pipeline.
Yeah. Job's a good one. But that also finds me slightly amused because it's like, oh, you already have some Doctor Who history. Interesting.
But that's all we know on Jack and his character Will. Moving on, we've got a bit of a snippet from executive producer Joel Collins on the new TARDIS interior. He says, we talked through various concepts with Russell, and there was one rough idea that was just too ambitious and too impossible, but which everybody loved. Once he'd put it in front of Russell, he's just too visually bright to unsee it. Phil would go, yes, but it's completely mad. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry, Joel. There's Joel Collins and Phil Simms right next to each other in the paragraph, so I keep mixing up the names. Plus, Phil Collins is a name, but not one related to Doctor Who. So Joel would say, yes, but it's completely mad. It's never going to happen. And then they started to say, okay, how do we make this impossible space possible? So the production designer, Phil, brought in a brilliant engineer who spent months trying to solve the engineering riddle of this impossible, logic-defying set, which no one in their right mind should ever have drawn in the first place, but that kind of sums up the show.
Yeah. If you're not trying to push the envelope, then why bother being here?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It sounds like an MC Escher drawing turned into a TARDIS interior.
Well, you've seen the pictures of the new TARDIS interior, yes?
I've seen.
The rumored one, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing a relatively basic one, and I don't remember anything impossible about it, unless I'm not remembering it clearly.
I'm thinking there's some bits to it that maybe we haven't seen yet, but
Yeah, most likely.
I'm just saying it looks good,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
which is an
I'm
improvement
also
over these dark,
wondering-
ugly ones we've been having lately.
I'm also wondering, I stuck this into Series 14 because it seems to be part of the Series 14 hype cycle, but we don't really know if the 60th and Series 14 are going to have separate TARDIS interiors from one another.
We
know that they
we don't know for sure.
We know they disassembled Jodie's, so most likely Tennant is not going to have Jodie's. But we don't. Maybe they're going to do like a classic Who inspired one for Tennant, and then a completely different one for Gatwa, or something else completely different.
Or if they still have the set left over from the museum pieces and so forth, they might just bring back the coral.
Right.
Mm.
Which hopefully they have enough lights to light it up properly, but we'll see again on that one too.
Honestly, something that wouldn't shock me is if they design one for Tenet and then they just tweak it somewhat instead of changing it completely.
Yeah.
Just to save on money. Sort of like how the posh kitchen set as Bill puts it in Series 10, like was started as a Matt Smith set, but then they just kind of like tweaked the lighting and a few things here and there. When Capaldi took over.
Makes sense. Yeah, changing the lighting can make a whole lot of difference in a TARDIS set. So.
Yeah.
All right. In our last bit of Series 14 news, we have the director for Block 3 was announced as Julie Ann Robinson. And I'm looking her up really quickly.
Yep.
Apparently, she's known for the theater is the first thing that pops up on Google. But she also does television and film, of course. She did 2 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I haven't watched, but apparently is popular. 2 episodes of Bridgerton.
Roadies have heard of it.
Which is...
Let's check.
I had no idea Brooklyn Nine-Nine's been running that long. She did them in 2013 and 14. I had no idea the show's been going that long.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have still been going on cable back then, but the idea was that Netflix revived it after it got cancelled. Or picked it up to keep it going anyway.
Got you. But yeah, I feel like I've only heard of it in the past 5 years. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
she's
anything
done
particularly sci-fi out here. At least not that I'm aware of.
Can't figure out what Like Magic looks like it's related to like TV production or something, like it's a TV movie about making movies or something.
It just says TV movie director, yeah.
Although Castle Rock is I haven't watched it, although I feel like I should have by now. It's it should be kind of like urban fantasy-ish, right? It's a town set. It's a town where a bunch of Stephen King stories are set, and that's the premise of the show. So I would think maybe not sci-fi, but definitely fantasy elements would have been involved there.
From Stephen King and J.J. Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I have no faith in JJ. He's hit me. He's made
I
me
mean,
wait one
there
or
are
two
some
movies that I'm
things.
happy with, and the rest has been kind
Oh,
of.
the of
But but maybe Stephen King can step in and guide it a bit. Who knows?
yeah, JJ would be the visuals guy, and Stephen King would be the ideas guy in this case.
Hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, a lot. Any of the other stuff that I do recognize is a bit more like grounded drama sort of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really recognize
But
any
that's
of
it.
it,
We
so
don't know what kind. I mean, for all we know, she's directing 3 historicals. We don't know.
yeah, it's hard to say.
There were also some other crew members. These are for Block 2. The director of photography, which was already announced as being directed by Mark Tonderai, which I believe is returning. The director of photography was announced as Miroslav Basak. Uh, I probably mispronounced one or both of those. I'm not entirely sure the language that name originates from. Block 2's first assistant director is Gareth Tandy. And I think those are all the announcements. So I'm not going to stop and look those up. They're
Yeah, they're not like
yeah,
main
the
crew; they're the background crew.
right,
As long as they know that they can trust them, sure, okay.
yeah. I mean, and if anything, like it's not a training role by any means. It's a role with meaning, but it's ultimately going to come down to if they do lack experience, it would be up to Tonderai to fill in that gap and train them if they lack anything. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it for our Series 14 news. So a bit more procedural, I think, than most of our news is.
Mhm.
And then our big finish news, which we have one release, which is Short Trips Volume 12, which features 6 different short trips, each featuring a different doctor. I think they each had a different writer, but I wasn't about to write down
All of
6
them.
different writers and
No.
stars. But if you want a compilation with a bunch of different doctors, go ahead, look at it. And that is it for our news. Yeah. All right. Whenever you're ready to give me a countdown, I'll start the summer. And wow, my summary notes are very long. I will try. I will probably not read it verbatim.
Alrighty. So I got the stopwatch ready whenever you are.
Yep. Just give me a
All
countdown.
right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, we start on Gallifrey, where a celestial intervention agent named Vancell is telling the president about an imminent threat to Gallifrey, which for some reason they can sense the Doctor's Artron energy amidst whatever's going on. We get to the 7th Doctor, who first hears the cloister bell and then a strange song, almost like a siren song, and then gets the urge to first change his TARDIS coordinates, and then even to exit the TARDIS upon hearing the song again. The Time Lords try to contact the Doctor, but the signal is cut off. The Doctor finds a girl screaming for help named Elenia and saves her from quicksand. And when he tries to bring her to the TARDIS, finds it's locked and he can't get in. Meanwhile, the planet is protected by a shield, which keeps incapacitating ships that are flying to the planet and killing the crew members. Elenia was on one such ship as part of a geology study, and she was the only survivor from her ship. They encounter another crashed ship with a strange life form on it. Security drones scanning the ship erroneously identify the Doctor and Elenia as survivors of the ship and report to a woman named Ruthly. Ruthly orders the drones to kill the two, but they take them prisoner instead because I guess they don't do that. They're brought to Ruthly's home base, where she is also the caretaker and warden of a man named Sancroft. Ruthly reveals she's made a deal with assassins who have arrived on the planet to kill Sancroft. The 3 manage to escape to her security room, where they see the assassins kill Ruthly, claiming they want to avoid all witnesses. They also reveal that Sandcroft has some title called the First Knight of Velicia, and they've been sent by the planet Calphadoria to kill him for crimes that their allies had imprisoned him for. We cut to the Fifth Doctor, who has arrived in World War I era to investigate a disturbance. He lands on a British merchant ship. He gets a telepathic message from Van Cell to tell him to return to the TARDIS and leave, or else he will risk the destruction of time. However, the TARDIS door won't open, and Tegan and Turla won't respond from inside, probably because they couldn't afford 2 more returning voice actors. The Doctor is quickly apprehended by a girl named Helen for trespassing. However, the ship is torpedoed by a German U-boat, and Helen and the Doctor are the only survivors and are taken prisoner. In an effort to stop whatever they expect the Doctor to do, the desperate Van Cell uses time distortion to take control of one of the German sailors and try to kill the Doctor. Helen shoots the soldier, saving the Doctor, and threatens to shoot the captain if he doesn't bring them to the TARDIS. The Doctor makes it to the TARDIS, but leaves Helen behind. Back on Gallifrey, the Time Lords reveal that someone called the Knights of Velicia have encircled Gallifrey, disabled its defenses, and killed the president, and are calling for its unconditional surrender. I should have brought more water. We cut to the Sixth Doctor, who has unknowingly arrived on a starship studying something called the Kurgan Wonder. The TARDIS had crashed into the Kurgan Wonder, which caused the Doctor to be kind of spit out into its current location. The Doctor senses time distortion, and then everyone except for him, a waitress named Ellie, and the android pilot suddenly age to death, and mutant creatures begin stalking the ship. Ellie reveals she's part of an underground movement that has decoded a distorted message from the Kurgan Wonder, where a creature called the Temperon is apparently trapped due to trying to stop some experiments that have been being conducted. That is what created the Kurgan Wonder in the first place. The Doctor also recognizes Ellie from somewhere, but he's not sure where. The Doctor is pulled back into the TARDIS and dematerializes to escape, which also frees the Temperon. What the Temperon telepathically informs him, he has now freed the Knights of Velicia to carry out their experiment. The Temperon then brings all 3 incarnations of the Doctor to Gallifrey, in the future where they have seemingly been in charge for several years. They share notes about what has been going on, and see that the Knights of Velicia are now in control here, and have, I think I just said that, and have recaptured the Temperon. The 3 Doctors are brought before the Knight Commander, who reveals that the Knights of Velicia are all sick and are draining regeneration energy from captive Time Lords to maintain their own lives against this disease. She reveals that at several important points, the 7th Doctor prevented the assassination of their first leader, which caused the resurgence of their empire. The 5th Doctor prevented the sinking of the Lusitania, which set off a domino effect, delaying the U.S. entry to World War I, stopping the discovery of penicillin, and ultimately preventing humanity from entering space and defeating the Knights of Velicia. And the 6th Doctor freed the Knights of Velicia from the Kurgan Wonder. The Knight Commander asks them to go back in time and prevent these mistakes so that the disease never affects the Knights. However, she tries to send them in a burnt-out TARDIS, so they go to the Temperon to do it instead. She tries to stop them from reaching the Temperon, but 6 and 7 manage to talk to it, and it reveals that the Knight Commander, as well as the girl that they've been seeing over and over under these similar names, are all Sirens of Time, who thrive on the energy created by wreaking havoc with the timeline. The Temperon explains that even if this sounds like a reasonable request, responding to their call a second time will actually cause them to become completely enthralled to the Sirens and lose all their free will. However, if the Temperon is freed, it can go back in time and trap the Sirens, trapping itself in the process and preventing everything they've ever done in the process. The Sirens believe the Doctor would never allow the Temperon to trap its own existence in that way. However, the Sixth Doctor reveals that he is the most pragmatic of all the incarnations of the Doctor and frees the Temperon, who resets everything from the story. The Doctor's return to where Elenia is calling for help, refraining from helping her this time, and return to Seven's TARDIS in order to return to their own time streams.
All right, I'm going to assume that's your end.
Yes.
7 minutes and 50 seconds.
Damn.
Mind you, folks, this is also a 2-hour special. or
Yes.
2-hour audio.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if I hadn't stopped to cough like 5 times, what my time would have been.
Probably closer to 6.
I'm going to go refill my bottle of water, and this is where you can... This is probably the one time that my cold has been obvious.
The most obvious, at least. I've been tempted to get water at certain points too, but I'm like, nah, as soon as I try to do it, I'm going to be needed here again. That's my luck at work too. Well, I can close that and bring up the image again. Yoink. And I can close this entire window. Bye-bye. Have some stuff ready just in case. What is this anyways?
You know, I'm trying to remember what the order, if the order is what it was last week, with you going first, or if that was a re-roll and it just landed that way.
I don't recall going first last week. Of course, there's
Yeah, it
also
must have been me
four.
last
There's
week,
also 4 of us last week too. So.
Actually, yeah, it was you last week. That was first.
Was it?
And I'm back.
No.
You're debating the order from last week?
Yeah. I don't recall.
Well, I know
first.
when I came on and I rolled the order, I had to move Alex's name from first to second. So I assume Alex was first last week.
And again, I think there's been a trend where I've been rolled first a lot.
But yes,
I was pretty sure it wasn't me first.
But yes, since that's what we're talking about, it is Matt to go first with what you liked about the story.
What I liked about the story. Honestly, I like these doctors working off of each other a lot more. Some previous doctors have been very divisive between one another. These 3 in particular, though, seem to be becoming more and more like cousins that get to see each other once in a blue moon, and always up to shenanigans.
To be fair, I think the last time they saw each other was at least the actors, the last time they had seen each other was 1993 in the special that we do not talk about.
Fair.
Well, they might have seen each other on the convention circuit, now that I say that.
Also very fair. That's also very likely. And to be honest, even since this, they continue to do random things together. The 3-ish doctors, anyone?
Mm-hmm. And actually, that mentioning that reminds me a bit of backstory on this story and why we chose it. So this was the very first Doctor Who story Big Finish ever did. This was basically it was a special made for Doctor Who magazine, and I think it was I think it might have been the first story they ever did at all before their Bernice Summerfield adventures. Which they basically used to build up a CV so they could turn around and say, "Hey, BBC, can we have the license to just print money from now on?" And of course, we know how that eventually went.
Maybe, possibly. Oh, sure. Why the hell not? They're selling more than our stuff, anyways. Go. just keep leasing the license off of us.
Generally,
All
at the
right,
very least,
Alex.
generally at the
Oh, go
very
ahead.
least, this is the first thing ever specifically written for them. Seemingly previously, they'd been doing audio versions of existing novels.
Right. Yeah, they did a lot of that. And I think that was not. I think that was specifically Brittany Summerfield novels. I don't think they had done ones with doctor actors before.
Probably not. All it says is Virgin New Adventures.
Oh, the Virgin New Adventures would be Doctor Who stories.
Hmm.
Okay. Alex, what did you like about the story?
Um, Honestly, I like the format in that each of the doctors gets a part each before they come together in the end. Um, because usually the problem that we end up having with some of these multi-doctor stories is certain ones will get spotlighted over others.
Mm-hmm.
At least in like visual media. I
Yeah, so
forget
we
if
had
I've
three
actually heard
doctors,
any.
5 doctors, and the 2 doctors at this point.
um like I think the 50th is probably the only other one I can think of that like gets a decent balance, and that's all three of them at the start. But this was nice to have, and honestly, this is a thing that I might have even discussed with you guys before, where I think this kind of an approach um would be a good idea. I mean, the episodes would be longer each, but I think this would be a good way of doing a multi-doctor thing in live action at some point. Like each doctor gets a special or something leading into one where they all group up.
Mhm.
Um, they'd have to nail down actors to make that happen, but
Yeah.
so it's easier in audio. But yeah,
Right, yeah.
um, uh, but yeah, just it was nice to like actually give each of them a spotlight before they came together.
On that note, it would be hilarious if the second episode of the 60th is starring like Peter Capaldi or something as the Doctor. Like
Mm.
we have David Tennant, and then he regenerates, and it's not a new Doctor yet; it's another old Doctor.
uh,
You're saying the second special should be the Doctor going through all of his regenerations to catch back up again?
Mhm. Or yeah, I mean, maybe the second would be Matt. The third special would be Peter. We already had Jodie recently, and then it goes on to Shooty Gatwa. Or Jodie has a cameo, and she's like, "Haven't wasn't I just here?"
Wait, what? And then
Um,
this is regenerating again.
anything more to say on that?
uh, yeah, that's about it.
All right. So I really like the idea of the Knights of Veli Shah, basically a malevolent time traveling race that was never meant to get this powerful, but due to time shenanigans, they ended up becoming
Actually
as
happened.
powerful as the Time Lords.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that idea. And yeah, at least parts of the execution of it, I think, are pretty well. Just even just the idea that the Doctor fucked up and got like tricked into helping them kind of restore their power.
Mm.
So basically, just the general concept of all that. If you even if you ignore, I don't necessarily know about the Sirens part, but definitely the Knights of Ilisha, I think it was really interesting. Although I do kind of wish they had come up with a way that they could actually defeat them as well, because they Briggs did not come up with that part.
Mm.
Which I mean, they were never defeated.
They were kind of.
They were made to have never existed. That's different.
Not that they never existed. They were
Um,
made so that they never got free.
Hmm. Yeah, generally undoing everything that happened, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also, on that note, I wish they had released some sort of like art. Like, and I mean, in a newer story, they would have done this, but I think on this, it was just literally the three doctors on the cover. But I
Yeah.
really wish we had seen like how they imagine the Knights of Vilishal looking. Like,
Mm.
obviously, they're in some sort of armor, so they wouldn't have had to
The way they described it
like.
is basically medieval power armor from like take like the power
Yeah,
armor
that's how
from
I imagine
Fallout
it.
and then make it medieval.
But it would be
Mm.
cool, like, and I think nowadays they would have just had an artist like mock up, what the helmet looks like or something.
At the very
It's
least, yeah.
relatively minor, of course. You don't need it for an audio drama, but
Mm.
they would
'Cause
have done it nowadays.
Well,
when you
also they
say,
should have had an art of the sirens themselves because they at least apparently visually appear at least once or twice.
because when you say like sort of weird, jacked up medieval armor, all I think of is like the some of the armor from Battlefield.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought you were going to say Warhammer 40K.
I don't think it'd be
Eh,
that bulky, but
Show up some
Well,
Space Marines.
well, this is supposed to be some sort of power armor, and it is supposed to help keep them alive, so it could be pretty bulky, to be fair.
mm.
I don't know. Again,
All
we don't
right.
have a visual representation.
Right.
Mm.
All
It wouldn't
right. What we
surprise it wouldn't
go ahead.
surprise me if there's like fan art that they just decide one day to go, yeah, that's what it is.
Don't know. They didn't find any.
Ah.
Uh,
All right. What we dislike about the episode, Matt.
I just liked
The
about the
serial,
episode
anyway. It's 4 episodes.
story. I just liked about the story.
Yep.
I have to say, if it was supposed to be obvious, I didn't realize that all the girls were the same girl until we realized that the second one disappeared. So there's there's little things like that where they didn't quite make it as clear as I would have liked it to have been that something was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously something was going on when the TARDISes kept just locking up and the interdimensional stuff just kind of disappeared from them every time. But then to hint to something like that, it's like, oh, you wait until halfway through the story to mention that something else is going on for sure, and not just some
Oh,
sort
so
of mess
you
up
would
because
have
of the
liked to
Time Lords or
see
something.
you would have liked to see more breadcrumbs.
At the very least, something more clarified.
Mm-hmm.
And why my game messages?
I figure that's probably why 6 keeps being like, "Don't I recognize you? Don't I
Yeah, in
recognize
case
you?"
you still didn't get the hint at the end of the middle one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
would have been more obvious if it were visual because you would have been like, "That's the same actor."
Yeah.
But here you have to recognize the voice.
Yeah.
And she seems to be doing for slightly different accents depending upon which version of her is popping out too. At least for that second one she did. Because I believe she's supposed to be. No, it was a British boat, so she was still going for a British voice, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. She didn't seem as recognizable the second time around, and it's like, oh,
maybe a little more working class because she was just like a deckhand.
I think the second accent was supposed to be either like Cockney or Mockney or something. But yeah, to springboard off that, I do find it odd that they wait until the 6th Doctor to start the "Don't I Know You" shtick, when technically shouldn't 5 recognize?
No, because 5
wouldn't
would
recognize
we
because
start
he's
with
after. He's before
5
the
would
others.
never have 7's memories.
Because it's just weird that like we start on 7, then go to 5, then 6.
And
but
I think that's why,
because
actually, if anything, 7 should have recognized.
If anything, but technically 7 met her first, and then 5 did. And of course,
Right.
5 could never have
I guess
7's memories
that's
because
I
memories don't
probably
work that
got
way.
mixed up then. I must have meant that it would have been nice if 7
Yeah,
Mm.
had been
seven
like,
should have already been dropping
wait,
hints of,
yeah.
did I know you from somewhere?
Or like even just like doesn't even have to be like completely thing. Just like I swear you look sort of familiar. Just like even if it was just once and then never brought up again.
Okay.
Whereas I think with Colin it comes up like a few times.
Yeah.
Like
Whereas,
if it had just been like the once when they first met, it's like you look oddly familiar, and then just drops it.
Yeah,
And
So
then,
Sylvester would
I
have been
s-
like once, maybe twice, but then they would be
Yeah.
running too much to be questioning it afterwards.
yeah,
right. And I see why you say that. It definitely makes a sort of sense. But I think the way, at least the way, the on-screen show doesn't really deal with crossing the timelines to that extent to have a real rule about it. But the way Big Finish seems to handle it is basically like, in this case, 5 is kind of rewriting his memory. Like this isn't a memory 7 had until we saw it in the story. Sort of like how in Storm Warning, even though Charlie traveled with the Sixth Doctor, Paul McGann did not recognize her because she hadn't traveled with his younger self yet. So it's it's kind of basically when it's kind of like a rewriting his history sort of thing going on here.
yeah, like
Seems hand
it
wavy
was.
to me.
Yeah, I mean, like it's generally more of a like a nitpicky thing because I can get kind of why because they don't want you to be clued in the first part.
Yeah,
That
Mhm.
the
something's
reason
off,
why it doesn't happen is because they
but
don't want you clued in early. But the
And
problem is
that's
that
probably why it's 7 and then 5 and then 6, because that way
yeah,
they don't have to clue you in until 6.
the problem is that it still undoes its own history in only one story. But then again, they also could only end it on 6, so because he's like the main like final component to everything working. To be fair, so that's also why they had to hand wave it in the writing. It's annoying, but it is a thing.
The kind of rhyming sort of thing, yeah. So that was your complaint, or that was just you adding to Matt's?
Complaint springboarding off of
Mm-hmm.
Matt.
Okay.
Because like mine was related, so I figured it was a good segue.
Yeah.
So I am going to say that I did not, and I especially noticed this taking notes, but the Temperon is constantly just giving exposition and exposition. It's like they realized they had a whole bunch of info they needed to dump at the last minute. So they were like, let's have the space whale do it all. And that's just, it spends more than half of its time, that it's in the story, just dumping exposition on the Doctor. And there must have been a better way to communicate some of that. Especially since there was already a bunch of exposition in that story that they couldn't have avoided. So, I mean, not that episode. I mean, specifically part 4. Like part 4
Yeah.
is like 80% exposition. And that's
Yeah.
not good for the climax.
Yeah, like as long as this is, I will say something that I almost went with for a dislike is that this almost felt like it needed not like it didn't need to be a 6-parter necessarily, but it may be a 5. Like or like the individual 4 parts being slightly longer.
Or even maybe just part 4 being 15 minutes longer.
Yeah. Something like that. It just needed a bit
Maybe
more
each of the parts like
time.
needed an extra track to it.
Mm,
Just enough time to help flesh out things a little bit more.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that adding an extra, any extra time to like parts 1 and 2 would have helped anything.
Yeah.
Like part 2, I feel was already complicated enough, especially.
Yeah, it's more that the back end needed a bit more fattening up. And it's just a matter of like,
I'm just saying, as opposed to having an entire part 5, just give it a little extra time to everything. And maybe have some of that exposition happen in one of those earlier 2 places where it is less confusing.
Oh, actually, I say that, but I just realized if you had maybe added like, say, 5 minutes to the Time Lord part of episode 1 and 5 minutes to the Time Lord part of episode 2, then you might have gotten some of that extra information without it being out of place.
Yes. That actually would have been the perfect way to do it. Just an extra track to give more info before we dive into the rest of it again.
Speaking of the Time Lords, I think it's hilarious how the whole problem with the Fifth Doctor was basically all Van Sel's fault. Because if Van Sel hadn't been like, you have to return to the TARDIS, and I'm going to try to kill you twice, then maybe the Doctor would not have fucked everything up. So it's really all Van Sel's fault that time.
It's actually the Time Lord's fault this time. It's all your fault. You all messed it up for the second one. If you wouldn't have budged your noses into it, everything could have worked out. But no.
So that was all 3 of our dislikes, right?
Yeah.
All right. So favorite scenes, Matt.
Favorite scene? Trying to think, which one do I want to go with? There's a couple of good moments here and there. Actually, that was kind of amusing. Almost a throwback to Star Wars, actually. They're at the scene in the beginning of or is that the 3rd act? Or it was the tail end of the 3rd act or the start of the 4th act? I forget which. But it's after all 3 Doctors have already gathered back up, and then they see the Knights for the first time, and they're like, "Oh, wait, we need to get closer to the other stuff we need to get to, but first we need to get further away because they just detected us. So quickly into the trash chute." But we don't know what's down there. We have another choice. So
yeah, that would have been early in part 4. Yeah. I wonder if that was an intentional Star Wars reference.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but it kind of almost seems like it.
Yep.
Into the garbage chute, fly boy.
It was, yeah. And it comes up like at least twice as well, because it comes up in part 3 with like, oh look, there's an air duct or something, and then but
we're too big for it.
It's just like, yeah. Like, unless we can turn into mice, we're not getting through there.
Hey, Alex, what's your favorite scene?
Not so much the whole scene, I guess, but just the specific line of when the 3 Doctors meet, and it's like, so is there any more of us? No. Oh, thank heavens for small miracles. It's like very nice kind of, oh thank God. Like we don't get along as is at the best of times.
Right.
If there was any more than 3 of us, this would be very insufferable.
Yep.
Like I said, these 3 in particular seem to get along the most out of all of them so far. So yeah, all of them are probably just like, none of the others are here, right? Nope. Thank God.
So it leads to my favorite scene, which, let's see, do I have any that aren't taken? Oh, actually, yeah. I do like, we haven't really talked about it yet, but the way like they when Cullen brings back that whole thing where originally the Knight Commander had been talking about, oh, fascinating. these are all these personality traits, and you're more of that, and you're more of that, and you're more of that. And then Colin brings it back. He's like, oh, in all in all of my lives, I am pragmatic, but especially so in this one. And then flips it, and
Bam.
and ends up freeing the day.
Hmm.
Just the delivery is excellent. The way it calls back to that is excellent. The way it just kind of it acknowledges like for the for the story it is it's a it's a originally a first time release, a seemingly a one off that's kind of celebrating the history of Doctor Who. You don't know if there's going to be any more Doctor Who,
Hmm.
and so it's almost like an anniversary special in that way. And
Hmm.
the way they did that was kind of like paying respect to the whole history of the show,
And let's also
Hmm.
be fair. Colin, out of all of
except
them,
for 8.
let's be fair. Colin, out of all three of these guys, is going to be the one that would be like, "Yep, I'm pulling the trigger.
I mean,
I did it on
you could
Cybermen. I'll
argue.
deal with you too." Boom.
I mean, you could almost argue that if it was 7, they probably would have had a worse fate, depending on which era of 7. If this was closer to his start or closer to his end in the
Seven
show.
would have seven would have tricked them into blowing themselves up, and then maybe freed the Temperon or not.
Yeah, Seven might have tricked him into blowing it up anyways, but would have, for his own safety's sake, maybe tried to be out of the room. Because he might not fully trust the Temperon either.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All right, least favorite scenes.
Least favorite
Hmm.
scene. Mm, honestly, I didn't care for the first 2 cliffhangers. Because I knew that something was going to happen, but they really did not flesh out what actually happened.
Especially
They
the first
literally,
one, they kind of cut it off in the middle of the action
yeah, they
and
literally
never
cut it
get
off
back to
like
it.
right in the middle of what's going to actually happen here, and then just end music. I'm like, okay.
Hmm. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm just not going to
I
write the rest of
doubt
that
they're going
scene.
to die, but you're really not telling me the information I need to know to wrap up the story.
Yeah.
Because
And
the
you
better
said the
cliffhanger would be,
second one either?
and the second one either, because literally they just end with the Fifth Doctor clinging to his TARDIS and going,
Oh
"What
yeah,
now?"
he still
Yeah.
can't get into the TARDIS even though everything's done. So what the fuck happens after that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would have been better is if something actually happened to the doctors after whatever needed to be finished had finished, and then we get some sort of other hint of something going on, and again, that'd be a better teaser
Mhm.
to something else going on.
Would you
Hmm.
have liked if part 2 ended with like not revealing what the Temperon was yet, but just the doctor saying like, something weird was going on and he was being like could feel himself being like teleported or something?
More like, well, if the Temperon's getting him, like they said it did, be him clinging onto the TARDIS, all of a sudden he feels something pull his leg, and he's just like, "What's going on? No, something's got a hold of me," and then splush into the water, and that's the very end. At least that'd be
Mm-hmm.
something, and a hint of something
Right.
happening. And have
Yeah.
something similar happen to the Seventh Doctor, where he also is forced to disappear. Each of these doctors suddenly getting grabbed by something and yeeted off somewhere, and we're not sure where.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, Alex.
Um. Let's see. Um. God. It's funny because some of them I'm just like, eh, is it really that bad? Or like, whatever. Um. You know what?
I have a scene I'm trying to avoid because I know it would be Rand's least favorite scene. And then I have the one that I actually want to pick if you don't pick it.
Hmm. Um, I guess I'll go with for purely like uh sort of nitpicky reasons when they're in the submarine and I forget what version of it is named whatever. I think it's Helen.
Yes.
It just shoots randomly and the fires a warning shot in a submarine and I'm like, I feel like I've seen things that have brought up that no, that is actually a bad thing to do.
That's a
That
bad
is
thing
a
to do. As a
great
matter of fact,
point
they
I
should
have
all be
not
dead right
thought
now.
of.
Because, like, at least the guy who shot the doctor, the bullet just went into and probably not through.
Hmm.
Or at least if it
So,
went through his shoulder, it would have been slowed and wouldn't have done any damage.
yeah. Um, but yeah, she's just firing warning shots and shit. And it's like, in a,
And the
in a
pressure has
submarine,
just
let
been released.
alone,
Oh, we're all dead.
yeah, like, not only a submarine, but a World War One submarine. So,
I
like,
wonder if that was almost a clue because honestly, the sirens don't really care if they sink the submarine. They still get
mm,
what they wanted out of it.
yeah.
And then the doctor would have to swim, I guess. But a real human would unless she was pretty stupid, would
Mm.
probably not want to destroy the craft that was carrying her.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
like the doctor does kind of snap at us slightly to be like, "Hey, maybe don't do that," but but also just like, it's you would think that someone in the dialogue would have brought up, "Hey, maybe don't fucking fire randomly while we're in a submarine." Thanks.
Hmm. Okay, so um, from the same episode, not the same scene. Uh, they get to the end, and the doctor's like, "Well, thank you for trusting me and risking your life and threatening to kill other people to get me to the TARDIS. Now you can go rot in a German prison for the rest of your life because deuces. I'm never gonna see you again."
Bye
Like,
bye. Whee!
Hmm.
like I understand you can't take every life form onto the TARDIS, but
Hmm.
this definitely seems, she's like somebody he would at least consider either, if not taking on the TARDIS as a companion, who would at least be like, okay, let's get you back to England maybe.
Hmm.
But I mean, we know that she's a siren and she didn't have a home to go to, and it probably would have been disastrous to invite her onto the TARDIS. But the doctor did not know any of that. So in his mind, he's just condemning an innocent girl who just, risked her life trusting him to go, whatever the fuck happens in a German
Hmm.
POW camp in World War One. Probably be like have mustard gas tested on her or some shit.
Hmm. And the irony is, now that you mention that, literally either of the other two I could buy this with. Like, I could buy sixth doing this, and I could buy seventh doing that, but not fifth. Because, like, he's even supposed to be, like, the whole gag with the three of them of, like, you're this, you're this, you're this. He's supposed to be the compassionate one.
Right.
So it's weird.
He has
The
the
story
least
contradicts
right.
that.
Whereas Seven is, he's being compassionate. He's going to take her aboard the TARDIS, and
Mm.
yeah, not five at all.
uh, Like, yeah, again, like I could have bought this with either of the others. Like maybe with seven I would have been a bit but I would have bought it more
Which
with
it's
six or seven than five.
And then like 3 stories later, he picks up Harry. I mean, 3 televised stories. Let's not count all the Big
Mm.
Finish stories because we'd be here all day. And I managed not to talk about the ending because I know if Rand were here, he would want to explain why a giant fucking reset button is not a good ending.
Mm.
Although actually this time the doctors remember what happened. At least it seems like they will, as compared to the light at the end, where none of them remembered what happened.
Right. It also would seem that at least some of the Time Lords are very confused because they obviously seem to at least vaguely remember something was going on, and then it's suddenly not anymore.
Vencel, Vencel dematerializes, and he's like, "Why am I here? Was there a crisis? Were we going to meet about something?"
Sorry, I guess it's nothing. Bye now. And then he leaves, and the others left behind are just like, weirdo.
They didn't even offer him a cup of tea.
Or Jammy
Actually,
Dodger.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a Time Lord other than the Doctor offer someone a cup of tea. Maybe the Master.
Actually, yeah, maybe the Master.
I could see Missy offering someone tea. All right. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Honestly, as much as we'll nitpick some things on here, and the whole reset button being one of those things that we usually nitpick, I don't mind it when the reset button has a personality as much, even if it is mostly a dialogue dump personality. I don't mind it that it actually can talk and can reason, and the reason is I do what I have to do to keep the universe safe. Majority of the story is actually pretty interesting. I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever, but I do like a lot of the acting from the doctors in particular, and I think it was a generally pretty well put together story, even if there are some tweaks I would have with it.
Okay, that's all.
Yep.
All right, Alex.
It was interesting listening to this just because, I mean, for one thing, I can tell this was done in the late 90s by virtue of the fact that some of these doctors don't sound anywhere near as old as they currently are. I think Colin...
this was 20 years ago, so they're not nearly as
Right,
old as
true,
they currently
yeah.
are.
Yeah, because it was kind of funny because at first, I don't think I realized at first that how old this story was. And then when I heard Colin Baker's voice, I was like, oh, he sounds surprisingly more like energetic and younger. And it's like, oh, yeah, that'd be why.
I was in freaking high school when this thing released.
I wasn't even 10 yet when this
I was
story
a
was
freaking
released.
freshman.
But yeah, it was like it was very interesting. Like, again, like I said near the start, I liked the way that we got reintroduced effectively for the sake of like this being the first like original Doctor Who thing for Big Finish. Sort of reintroducing each Doctor first and then bringing them all together. I kind of wish we got a bit more banter between them. But again, it is a matter of the story is already so long, and while I would have appreciated it being a bit longer, so some of the exposition, as Bill has said, would have had a bit more time to be spread out. Honestly, for a first effort, not that bad. Although I swear to God, this definitely feels like I haven't listened to, I think not that many. I don't think I've listened to that many Nicholas Briggs written Big Finish stuff. But the more I listen to this, the more I'm like, this feels like Ravagers. Like the Ninth Doctor stuff, like the first Ninth Doctor box, like volume. Because it was just like, oh yeah, because that was him going through different time periods as well. And then hitting a big reset button at the end, from what I can recall. So it was very like, oh, okay. I guess it's either, I forget if Nick Briggs wrote the Ravagers box set or not, but like if he did, then that would denote a pattern. I mean, I feel like I remember being you guys either joking about it or I've seen people joke about the fact that he apparently is keen on this sort of timey-wimey stuff, very Moffat kind of a thing as well.
I feel like I remember making a comment about it. Let's see. It looks like he was writer and director of the whole box set.
Ah.
So, yep. It felt Briggs-ish because it was Briggs.
Yeah. Well, it's mainly I forget if he wrote the Ninth Doctor one, but yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, Ravagers, he wrote
Yeah.
and directed that whole box
Yeah.
set.
So it's like, yeah, it was kind of funny because it's like, this story format feels kind of familiar in a way. And it's like, oh, that's why. Because he's sort of like, to be fair, very different like setup and all this, but very much fucking around with different time periods, and then that which in its own way is kind of a retread of War Games now that I think about it.
Kind of,
Which
sort
is
of.
very granted they don't undo everything, the Time Lords just erase the villains from all existence.
They erase the villains from
Right.
existence, wipe everyone's memories, and
And they
send them back home.
Erased, and they erased Jamie and Zoe's memories, which was a dick move.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like for a first effort, not that bad. Like, realizing that, like, I feel like if this was like way further in, I probably would be more critical. But and like there are still bits that like bug me and all that. So I wouldn't be like, you know, I'm not gonna like give it a pass or anything necessarily. But as a first go round for an original Big Finish audio for Doctor Who, they definitely could have had a worse start. Like this, while it's probably not necessarily the strongest start they could have had, it also could have been a hell of a lot worse. So I have to give them credit for that at least.
Okay, is that all?
Yeah, yep.
All right, and yeah, I agree with that. In that, so this is, as far as I can tell, big Nicholas Briggs' first Doctor Who writing that is not technically fan fiction. He had definitely written Doctor Who audios before, but they were not official, and they were starring him as the Doctor. So they don't count. So, given that this is, his first go, and because of that, the whole the trends and stuff are not as bad because they're new, they're interesting. We hadn't really seen them before. I'm a lot more critical when I see the same tropes repeat in a third of the stories that he seems to write, or at least the big ones, maybe not all the little ones. But all these specials he writes seem to have a very similar structure to this.
A very
And
a lot of his
then I'm
big
more
ones seem to
critical.
have a very similar push the note button.
Yeah, similar beats. But yes, for the first go, I'm not as critical of it. Um, I do think that this story was much better before it hit episode 4, and that episode 4 tried to do a whole lot of catch up, without enough time for what they wanted. So that definitely detracts from the overall score, but not that it's bad by any means. I think the actors are great to have. It would have been nice if we had their companions, but again, that's picking at something that it isn't rather than what it is. The main
And
cat,
also,
the
again, this is a
main
first, and they had to do it on a budget to make sure that
right.
it actually even got done.
Yeah, yeah. The three doctors were all brilliant. The siren actress was also brilliant. Um, and yeah, my main complaint would be, okay, it was kind of annoying to have the reset button. which means that actually the Doctor was not able to beat the Knights of Elisha. As I mentioned earlier, that's probably the most annoying part of it. And all the exposition dump. I think that could have been ironed out and improved. And I'm not sure if I don't think of him as having a lot of exposition, but his stories do tend to be so complicated that they need exposition. So I'd have to listen to something he's done recently with that in mind to see if he's better at that. Although I think Ravagers probably did have a lot of exposition just spread out over time.
Mm.
If nothing else, he's better at spreading it out instead of having it be loaded on the end.
Which is important to do if you're going to have a lot of exposition. Don't have it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know that. Well, I tend to enjoy the kind of nostalgic fan servicey feeling of this kind of story. I've talked about it with Ran, and I know he definitely sees the flaws of Nick Briggs's writing style more than he enjoys the positives of it. Kind of funny, like we were talking about the different aspects of the Doctor. It's like we both see the same things, but one of us emphasizes more than the other. So yeah, I ultimately enjoy this, but it's definitely not like top tier because of some of those issues. And that's the end of my thoughts. Before I go on and have another coughing fit.
So I guess ratings.
Oh yeah, I should probably have the rating sheet open, shouldn't I? So yes, ratings.
All right. I've been kind of waffling a bit, but that's only like a half-point difference. I think overall, especially considering that this is a first attempt, this still isn't a bad score, even though it's my lower end of my 2 scores. So I'm giving this a 4.
4. Okay. Alex.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Like I was teetering towards the 3.5, but I was like, you know what? There's enough good stuff about this that I can decide to be nice, and I'm giving this a 4 as well.
I also agree 4.0. If I were in a betting mood, I would guess that Ran is going to give this a 3.0.
Probably, at the very
but
least.
He's not here, and I'm not going to give him a rating. Put words in his mouth.
Yeah.
But right now, that gives us an average of 4.0. All right, let me get that onto our ranking sheet.
I sometimes forget how many 4.0s there are.
Yeah.
Quite a big stretch of them.
So out of 443 things reviewed, this is number 220. It is on par with, I'm sure, some Big Finishes, right? Trial of the Valiard, The Great White Hurricane, Stage Fright, Destiny of the Doctor, Hunters of Earth, and Light at the End, which is the one I just was talking about. It is not as good as the Sixth Doctor Last Adventure, The Brink of Death, or The Chaos Pool, and it is better than 10th Doctor Adventures Technophobia, and the Jago and Lightfoot Revival, Acts 1 and 2, and The Condemned. That's all we have to say of Sirens of Time. Hopefully there's all the Big Finish fans out there have listened to this story. Please let us know what you think about it in the comments. Don't forget to like the video since you've listened this far. Subscribe on YouTube to get our exports, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we take a week off for our end of season break. which isn't as big a deal when we've been missing several weeks, but it's been a complicated year.
Yeah.
When we return, we celebrate Elizabeth Sladen's birthday with our annual look at at Sarah Jane stories. Since we're done with the Sarah Jane adventures, that means we look at the 2002 audio drama series, starting with Sarah Jane Smith Comeback, written by Terrence Dix and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. Hey, that's a short cast list.
And that'll be the 21st?
If you're off of work.
Yeah, I have off the 21st.
Oh,
Bingo.
cool. Then I guess it will.
See you all next time. Good night.
You done.